There he is. There he is. Austin
Hey.
Sawyer. Hey, Alden.
How you doing,
Welcome
Harry?
to BeerNet Radio. Guys, you guys know the drill. This is the podcast where all your dreams come true. And
I heard.
I'm assuming that one of your dreams is that we can get a bill passed in the next year on this hemp business. But
Maybe.
we'll get into that. So, but anyway, thanks for being on, guys. And Jen, why don't you introduce them? We'll get going.
I'd like to welcome to BeerNet Radio Countermeasures Corp leadership, President Austin Sawyer and CSO Alden Hoksbergen. CMC has skyrocketed to 150 clients over the past 5 years for their array of services, which include shared sales reps, national accounts management, fractional CMO services, and more. Austin is a Han family co-alum and a longtime BBD friend, and Alden is also an industry vet, having been director of national accounts at Founders Brewing Co., for example. So welcome, Austin and Alden, for a year-end BBD chat.
I like it. Thanks for having us on.
All right, absolutely. Well, so, like I think I mentioned, you guys have over 150 clients, non-alc, alc, hemp. I mean, you guys, energy, you've got everything. So you see everything from your perch. And I'm just curious to kick it off here. What stands out about 2025? Was it as bad as we've written and people say, right? Or were there some bright spots? And then what do you see ahead for 26?
Yeah, I'll start, and then Alden, you may have some data insights to add to that. I think in 2025, it was I think uncertainty kind of roller coaster was a good way to put it. I think we started the year with a lot of hope and optimism that maybe what we're seeing on beer and alcohol in general was a trend. Turns out it's not. We'll get to one of your questions later about what I think is going to happen next year. I do think beer is going to come back in a different manner. I think we saw a lot of wholesalers and brands having to attack their audience and their consumers in a different way. I think your traditional ways of advertising, connecting with consumers are no longer getting it done. I think when you look at the paths of some of the hot brands you all write about and the industry knows about, they're not being done by winning at Super Bowl spots anymore. They're not being done at tailgates. They're done a different way. But I think we see that consumer occasion per point of, consumer occasions up big time. And I think that's going to continue to rise. If you look at what it costs, like when people used to drink a Diet Coke, now it's an Olipop or a Poppy or something better for you. Energy drinks are more expensive. The bar is more expensive. So I think
I still drink Diet Coke, man. I'm old school.
We call those fridge cigs in the office.
Yep.
Fridge cigs.
That's right.
Somewhere. We do the
right.
mini. We do the mini Diet Cokes, and they're just a perfect little fridge cig. But yeah, I mean, I think I think it was bad. We saw the impact of some of that with friends of ours in the industry. And we'll get to this in a little bit, but through some of that, the same way we built this company 5.5 years ago, we had some similar conversations this year, but it's with bigger partners now. And I think everyone is having the right size moment when they say, I can't continue to operate this way. And I've got to look at alternatives. Fortunately for us, we're one of those alternative route to markets than hiring your own team. So it's been a good ride for us. When I look at 2026, I think that natural functional continues to rise. I do feel we win hemp and we win that regulation, and we'll get to that in a little bit. It's going to be interesting how we get there and how we win, but I do feel like it's too big to put it back in the bathwater thrown out with somebody.
Throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Put back in. And I think occasion-based drinking rises. And I think that's through a mix of things. We talk about, how do you simulate the experience without losing or feeling excluded? And I think brands like Athletic have done a great job of that. Ritual's done a great job of that. You don't have to socially exclude yourself if you're not drinking alcohol anymore. And I think, when I look at the hemp industry and the beverages there, I think those, you drink too many of those, you're not social anymore. But just right enough, it's a social lubricant, like alcohol could be. And whether it's an athletic or a hemp beverage or whatever your mocktail may be, I think those things have given us occasion-based opportunities to drink. And I do think beer comes back. And the way it does that is I think people want more than ever something that's convenience driven, is trustworthy. So I think ready to drinks continue to surge. They don't want to have a whole bar kit when they go to tailgates or go to a pool party, where it may be. So I think your RTD cocktails, I think, fortunately, I think the brands that have recognition, craft beer, you see Bell's Two Hearted, you see Sierra Pale, Founders All Day IPA. I mean, those brands that people know and trust, they're not going to have liquid issues. I don't think trial is going to be up nearly as much as we've seen in craft. I think we saw a lot of that in hemp. But I think like the tried and trues are going to have a good year last year. Now, albeit we're at the bottom or the worst we've seen in a long time. So up next year compared to the last 2 years isn't great, but it's still better than continue to plummet. So I think all those things happen. And I think distributors are more bought in than ever to build what's next. And build it the right way. And for everyone here that talks to large AB Miller Coors distributors, we saw beginning of last year, there's a ton of focus on their big brand focus, as there normally is. But I think as we went throughout 2025, you saw a lot of people that were really open and talking to us about like, hey, what are you guys seeing out there? What's working in other parts of the country? My competition, what are chains looking at for next year? And now they're coming to us saying like, what can we bring on? Versus like distributors are kind of locked doors. It better have chain. It better have a big team behind it. All these criteria to entry, those kind of go to the wayside if it's a category that's driving in the right way. So I think distributors are going to continue to get innovative on how to maintain their dollars delivered per stop is pretty important. The trucks are still going to the same places. They're going to continue to put new things on there. But I think brands have to do a better job than ever next year of delivering upon consumer-based occasion for beverages, whatever that beverage may be, whether it's a better for you soda or a functional beverage or something to go out at night. And I think, again, a lot of the traditional marketing is almost, it's not going to be non-existent because people are going to still have big budgets and still spend big dollars at it. But I think you've got to connect with consumers in a different way. And I think that's on the marketing team for some of these big brands to drive what goes next. And then as anything does, when high noon works, the rest of the RTD category, Surfside, all the other ones follow. If Sierra, Bell's, Founders continue to do their thing and go up and figure out that way, the other brands will follow suit there. So I think that's how beer comes back. I do think hemp has a strong place in 2026. I'm pretty hopeful of that. And then I think these functional, you look at like there's a mushroom brand called Little Saints that we're talking to. Breeze has the functional line. But these mushrooms, there's a Melting Forest is a brand, guy named Micah, we know, ran Mellow Waters now over there. And these things are taking off real traction. They're getting real shelf space. Where they go and where they end up and what the price point is to be determined. But I think these things are all showing that consumers need more options. They want to have things they like. They will trial on the new functional side, but they want to go the tried and trues on their RTDs and beer. And that's no Beer Business Daily 2026 forecast as you all do at the end of the year. But I think that's how we're seeing it right now. It's all over the place, but I think as the industry is too.
That Little Saints is all over my Instagram feed. I've noticed. I was like,
you're supposed to buy it when it's all over your Instagram.
I know. Well, you know what? I will buy it just to try it because they must know that I'm old. Because they're showing like an old man, like in a cowboy outfit. He's like, I used to drink bourbon. Now I drink Little Saint. It's pretty good. Well done, actually. It's intriguing to me, at least.
Yeah. Well, okay. Alden, did you have anything to add there? I don't know, in terms of chain or anything else?
A lot of brands come to us and ask us that question as far as, what's next and what are we seeing and hearing. But that's what we try to tell our brands when they work with us. We can try to do is tell retailers and wholesalers, this is where we're going to fit. This is how we're going to pull. And it's just amazing to see how many retailers and wholesalers are asking that question versus they used to always kind of think they knew that answer. So there's been a lot more questions being asked. But when it comes to retailers, the consistent answer or question is like, what is going to work on my shelf? And so for a lot of the industry people out there, it's blocking and tackling, is making sure on-shelf availability, making sure their digital shelf matches their physical shelf. So a lot of those essentials, and for us, it's been fun to have the presence that we do in THC, because that's been plugging a lot of those questions and answers for what we put on the shelf. But really, Austin kind of hit it on the head. The people that are calling us and asking us, to partner up and push their brands are trying to drive the innovation and see where the consumer is going to be next.
Yeah, yeah. And I told Jordan before we hopped on, I said, I don't want this whole call to be about hemp, but we definitely have to talk about hemp, right? And THC. I mean, before I hopped on, I saw a Crane's Detroit article. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the wholesalers are trying to get THC beverages, period, right? Cannabis, hemp, whatever. So we're now in another realm, but let's talk about the intoxicating hemp companies just got dealt a blow, as we just referred to. So the hemp loophole is closing, but they have a year potentially to regulate, right? Federal regulations, see if that can be passed. I'm curious what you guys think about what a viable framework would look like, but I'm also curious because you guys work with a lot of these brands, is the infighting, because these brands have a lot of different structures, different caps, right? Different ways they go to market. Are they going to be able to get on the same page to get something like what I think we should have is we have FAA for alcohol, right? We need something like that for hemp. Is that what's going to happen? Are they going to be able to get this to the finish line? What do you guys see there?
If it doesn't come together as an industry, it will not get regulated. I had this talk 3 or 4 times this weekend, last week, and you can talk about whatever you want at your show, but that's all we talked about the last 3 weeks is hemp. So it's fine. When you look at, we're members of the HBA and all now on the Slack channel, and we look at, and the infighting is a great way to put it. And I finally had some conversations on the side, and I said, people that think the same way we do, and we'll get to how we want it regulated in a little bit. I said, everybody, there's going to be a line in the sand that says this is 80% of what the industry thinks should happen. And we can get wholesalers to sign this on and brands to sign this on. The other 20% can go on their own and fight, but you're going to have to not be friends, or you'll be friends with no companies. And there's no other way to put it. But if you look at the infighting, there was a few things passed, or put into submission for, hey, if we get an opportunity with Rand Paul or one of these senators to say, what does the hemp industry look like? There is not a unified answer. Last week, a group got together, and we're a part of it now. It's some great wholesalers, some great suppliers, great brand partners. We're getting retailers involved in it now. And basically they're saying, if we want something that's got to look like alcohol at the end of the day, we want a 5 milligram cap, 21 up. E-commerce, I've said this for a year, has to be the chip you're willing to throw away. You have to give up your e-commerce business, because if you ship it to the home, while there may be some FedEx or UPS drivers are IDing, many are not. It's on the front porch, and I've got a 14-year-old daughter, and she could grab that stuff and just whatever, go to town. She's been around her dad in the booze business a long time. She knows not to open my boxes, but not everyone does. So there's some safeguards that got put in place there. I think clean COAs, no synthetics. It's beverage only. It's 21 and up. Again, it looks a lot like alcohol. And then I think where the give is for the rest of the industry that wants flour and vape and gummies and all those things I don't believe are going to make it. But the folks that are fighting maybe the other 5% that want the higher milligram, one, my answer to them is Michelob Ultra does not sell whatever it sells every year, because it is the best light beer that's ever been invented. It's Michelob Ultra started its craze when the Atkins diet was big and everybody thought low carb was the answer. But it just built upon momentum. It's now became AB's horse. It's because you can drink a 12-pack of Michelob Ultra at a social gathering, and they're 3.5%, whatever they are, and they don't get you hammered, right? So it's sessionability and it's socialization, which I think are two things people want in this world. If you want to drink 50 milligrams of THC, go sell tonnage. The same brands that want 50 milligrams, 20 milligrams are still selling singles on the shelf. We tell every partner, and Alden has worked with a grocery chain last week that's going to roll out soon. And we're like, hey, we need to put varieties in there. We need these people to have, it's 4 packs or 8 packs or bigger, sell tonnage, treat it like your highball, your grocery store. You need multi-packs, you need tonnage. But if someone really wants 50 milligrams, go buy 10 of their beverages. And that's the way to do it. And then I think the caveat here, if we get that through, is there needs to be a way the states can run something at their level. And I think that's where taxation at the state level comes through. I think that is where milligram variations come through, that if you want up to a 20 milligram, if states want to go there, I don't think they will. they damn sure should take the tax advantage. I don't think maybe it gets taxed at the federal and state level. And again, you present these things out there, the what ifs, it gets taxed at the state and federal level. Well, we're sold in about 20 states, 23 states right now. There's no California, there's no Arizona, there's no Washington, there's no Oregon. There's some massive volume states. New York can sell 1 milligram. Now you go to all the bodegas in New York and it's magically in there right now, but it's not sold through distribution. It's not done the right way. But if all these states unlock, even if you have 5 milligrams, the hemp industry is 20x next year what it was last year. It's no more gray area, no more loophole. Every retailer's in. They're all telling us the same things. I cannot continue to add more and more footage of non-alc beers or mocktails or whatever it may be in my sets to take away from declining beer. This bridges that gap so functional to effects-based drinks. And I think it's the perfect solution there, but they want tonnage volume packs. The industry is going to take a haircut on price sensitivity. And if federal and state taxes, are hit, some of that will pass on to the consumer, I'm sure, but you're making something. You're allowed to keep going. The volume you could do in California alone may surpass what you're doing in the rest of the country. Arizona, I think, has the highest number of Circle Ks in the country. They were ready to roll out that chain. It was going to be a full door in every store in Circle K. When these things open up, it's not just convenience. It's grocery, it's mass merch club. Everything's going to get in. And that's what people aren't seeing. Like, just make your 5 milligram drink and go on. But I think there's enough of the right side of the aisle here that is aligned on this is what the hemp industry stand for. I think it gets put in front of the right people. There's a ton of good momentum that's happening right now on that front. I'm sure some of which will hit your doorstep soon. But there's probably gonna be an ask to BBD. We want every wholesaler to get on board with this. And we've worked with all the large wholesalers. Some changed their mind as of the last week about getting into the category. We've got new states. Alden and I've been working on Michigan for 8 months now. And they're planning on passing that local law that's going to allow them to roll out Q1. But there's no shortage of wholesalers getting in. But if the hemp industry is going to survive, it's not all about alignment. It's about getting one voice that everybody just accepts is okay. But if that doesn't happen and all the infighting still happens, my confidence in this thing getting passed and regulated goes down tremendously.
It's wild to me that people don't get that. 1,000 times 0 is still 0. I saw an interview with Senator Rand Paul over the weekend where he addressed this. I think it was on CNBC, and he seems kind of settled on the 5 milligram, per container, which, like you said, why would you want more of that? If you want more, to drink more, you buy more. It's crazy to me that you would want to have a 20 milligram drink because I couldn't even have one of those. So,
yeah,
and then getting rid of the gummies and all of that, that's just too toxic. You can't touch it. It looks too much like candy. And it's just, I don't see that. I don't see a political appetite for including that stuff.
There's not going to be. And by the way, we've seen a lot of bars that are doing 2 and 3 milligrams because they want to do 10s. And we say, hey, how many do you want to sell? You want to sell 1 10 at $12? Or do you want to sell like you do Bud Light, Modelo, Corona and sell buckets? If you do that, you need to sell 2 milligram low dose and have people stay for a while. Because if not, they switch to a Diet Coke or water or whatever it is. And your spend just capped at $12 versus probably getting up to $50. And I think, look, there's so much. Everyone's upset in this industry about this federal thing got snuck in, and I understand that government had to choose benefits for people or fighting to make this thing illegal. And I don't, no hatred to anybody that didn't vote against it because people need their benefits. I don't agree with the way it was snuck in, the ag bill, and I think most people are upset about that. But this is the moment in time. We couldn't live under this gray area of the Farm Bill forever, right? We've tried our best to keep hemp at about 30% of our overall business, which we're right about there total company wide. But now it's a defining moment in time. And we just had a meeting internally with our leadership and said, listen, we're still growing with our hemp suppliers and doing more with those, but we've launched spirits because of this. Functional is a big tactic. We're going out to BevNet Brewbound in a couple of weeks to talk, look at that world. And there's a lot of opportunity out there, but the hemp industry in itself now has a moment to come together, say if we don't do something, it's going to be zero. And if you don't stand together, like that's the real scary part about this. And knowing that there's some people that would rather die on the sword of I need my 20 milligrams or give me death. And the latter may get chosen for them if they can't get together, if we can't get enough voices. Because again, my biggest fear is we get this large conglomerate of folks that all say this is the way we want this thing to go forward. And then they happen to ask someone on the wrong side. And if that represents intent, now I don't think that happens because I think, again, we're going to have 80% of the industry behind this cause and the way it is. And look, there are some big money groups in the shadows of this stuff now, behind some brands. Going down to Texas next week to meet with a couple folks down there. They're large donors. There's large capital groups. There's large lobbyists. They're now on this right side that we have aligned with, and they know who to talk to. They know who to get these letters in front of. So it's no more just call your senator, call your congressman. Now it's a tactful plan that's going to put this letter and this pact in front of the right people. And I think it gets heard out. I think the farmers are very angry and upset and vocal right now. I think a lot of industries are being impacted. Because by the way, it's not just people that want to get high and use this instead of alcohol. A lot of people use hemp for a lot of medicinal purposes. And I truly believe, as much as I've been alcohol my whole life, it's probably taken 50% of my alcohol drinks out of my hand. Now next year we'll see. I'm a big stance that beer's back, and I'm going to be a part of that. But there's a lot of people that need this and use this in their daily lives. So I think the industry owes it to those consumers and the rest of the world to stand together and get this thing fixed.
Did it surprise you how strongly the Beer Institute came out against this? Because I have a feeling they had a hand in the language being put in.
Yeah, I mean, you look at who's against it. It's NBWA, it's BI, it's Discus. Now, there's some members that are on the NBWA board that are active hemp wholesalers.
Right. I feel like the NBWA is kind of riding the fence more than.
Yeah.
I feel like NBWA is not throwing their hat in the ring because their largest wholesaler member is adamantly against it,
right,
which they wouldn't be if it was federally regulated, which is the craziest thing. And I've talked to that wholesaler group, and they agree that if it was federally regulated, they would high likelihood get in, but they're still not asking NBW to cast their hat. When I talk about some of these groups and lobbyists and mystery backers and family trust funds that we can't talk about, they're behind some of these brands. There's real power. And I think you're going to see the likes of the Discus come on. I think you're going to see NBWA go the right direction because it's like we're in support of this if what happens on this letter is what's get regulated. And that's all we're asking to sign on for. And you look at the three largest wholesalers in spirits and wine and spirits, they're going to be on this letter. And the largest retailers will be on this letter. And we're not saying, do you support as is now in the gray area? We're saying, do you support this as a beverage that should be in your stores or on your trucks if this is federally regulated this way as described in this letter? And they're all unanimously saying yes.
Yeah.
So that's our position, and that's where we're trying to take it. And I'm hopeful. I'd put it at a 70% likelihood that we get it through. Again, but if the infighting continues and no one gets a line, sub 20.
Let's say it does go through. There is clarity. There is regulation, and you talked about large wholesalers getting on board, larger retailers getting in. How quickly do you think big bev alc suppliers might jump in? Because ostensibly, like when they're at the table, I mean, they can help hammer something that not only they approve, but something they could participate in too, right?
Yeah, I think wine and spirit. I mean, look, I know wine and spirits wholesalers, or suppliers, some of the big ones have been actively meeting with brands for the last 6 months. There's a lot that's going on in the background, and they're calling us to vet brands. They're basically acting as private equity because wine and spirits industry, no surprise, is softening up a little bit. And they've got capital. A lot of these family-owned companies, or even not the family-owned companies, they have large cash reserves. And instead of going traditionally be buying another winery, buying a craft distillery somewhere, they can look for a lot less capital to take a majority control. Now they've given their sales team in the streets, their wholesaler networks brands. But I think, Jordan, the answer is, I think if this thing pushes to federal legality, I know because a lot of this is happening already. We've been working in the background on a lot of this stuff already, and people are sitting on go. Chains, wholesalers, the people that aren't in, we've already met with. I mean, some of these chains already know what brand selection set they would go with if it went live. Wholesalers already know what brands they're going to try to take from the other networks if this thing goes live. So they're kind of all sitting on go with a contract in their drawer. They will support the fight, but we need some of these wholesalers. Look, the big wine and spirits wholesalers, we need those folks to flip discus. We need all the spirits come. WSWA is behind it, but the Beer Institute and MBWA, we need to win that. And again, our goal is to say, here's some of your largest members are saying they support this. If you're the National Beer Wholesalers Association, it should really be called the National Beverage Wholesalers Association at this point, I would say, far and wide. You should look for the best in distributor wholesalers. There will be jobs lost in the beer distributor side in 2026 if nothing improves. There's no other way about it. It's ugly. I think distributors have held the line as long as they can. You talk to beer distributors, they build energy brand up, they lose it. And a lot of people build trucks and salespeople and infrastructure, and they lose that brand. Now there's the argument they get paid, and there's a one-time payout, but they can't continue to go through that cycle. And this has given a real profitability because hemp beverage is about 4x a case what a case of craft beer is for GP delivered. So it's real money. Retailers are making real money on their 30-point margin. The wholesaler industries and support groups need this stuff to keep their groups going. And that's why we're really trying to have some real conversations right now and get their support.
I'll just quickly add to that. It's been really interesting. A lot of markets, wholesalers, retailers, they're on the fence. They're thinking, is this the right category? We've been sending them samples for a year and a half now, right? And they're sitting on their desk, and their friends, their family, their colleagues at a wholesaler, they're saying, what is this? The interest is building. The alignment is also building. It seems as though right when the news came from the feds, there was a lot of lively debate that's happening. But I think every single day that passes, from the phone calls and the meetings that we're having with partners, it seems as though people are seeing the opportunity because of how much consumer demand, how many retailers are interested, how many stores that are out there that want to get into the space. But when they learn more about the category, they understand that this is a very viable option for everybody to grow and succeed. So it does really seem every single week that passes that the alignment's getting stronger, and the interest from retailers and wholesalers is definitely elevating, even with the federal change.
Yeah, I'm curious, Austin and Alden, you guys mentioned something that was passing in Q1. Is that a state-based law, or is it THC?
Trying to pass in Q1. The Michigan wholesalers on the beer side have been trying to pass a state bill in which they all feel very good that's going to get through. Obviously, nothing's done until it's signed in this world, but they're still, and that's a good example of a state that's going forward and launching in the midst of a federal ban looming. And there's a lot of states doing the same thing, and they've been working. But again, this has been in the works, spending real lobbying dollars, legislative capital for a year and a half with these groups. So they're not backing down now. And the more of these, like Ohio, what was set to ban, and the governor there, who's been adamantly against hemp, put the 30-day stay last week. And there's a chance that now at the state level continues until they see what happens on the federal news or federal level. But yeah, Michigan is going to go forward if it passes through. They're planning on launching in Q1, which I've heard is beautiful weather in Michigan in the winter. Good time to launch. Again, a lot of these folks have worked so tirelessly on this and spent so much capital and resources. They don't want to back down now. With the hope that we do it at the state level. I think the more of these states that get something done at the state level, the more on the federal side they can look at and say there is a framework to be done. And all these states that are going forward are going forward in the same thing we're suggesting. It's 5 milligram cap, 21 up, run through the beer distributor networks or 3-tier distribution. And so I think the more that happens, it kind of supports our cause.
Yeah. Does that include cannabis drinks as well, or just hemp-based THC?
Nothing's black and white there. There's plenty of lively debate, but
interesting. Okay. Yeah. And that's another interesting angle. Let's say all of the toothpaste does get smooshed back into the tube for hemp. Do distributors then turn around and say, okay, let's try and pass laws where we can carry these low dose cannabis beverages. Is that a viable way to market?
That's not our world, and I don't want to get into that world.
Because it's only sold in dispensaries,
it's only
Right.
sold in dispensaries. There's
and
big,
they already have their distribution set up. So
That-
Right,
that's
but
correct.
this is a thing now. I mean, now the Michigan wholesalers are lobbying for this to happen. So it's not like it's like nobody's
again,
thinking of it.
there's different, like the wholesalers think they want that until they realize that you got to drive a Brinks armored truck to pick up cash. Because THC is not regulated.
there's no banking still. It's
There's
unbelievable.
no banking. That's the problem. Like there's but again, like there's banking here because there's groups that have figured out ways how to do it and how to ensure it, do all this. The opportunities in front of the hemp industry to get clean and legit the right way right here as a group is the best chances ever had. I don't look at it as a looming, like in 355 days. In the next year, we're going to know the future of this category. I'm hopeful that it's all clean and legal and regulated again, because these folks don't have access to traditional loans. They're doing private equity financing. They can't get a loan through their bank as a beer brand could or an RTD brand could. So it's still a tough road for a lot of these folks. But yes, to Jordan's point, as soon as this thing happens, I think all of these things open up and people are kind of sitting on go, waiting on it to happen.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And yeah, to your point about they already have plans and they've already vetted everybody, even though publicly they say no, 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 they're absolutely. Boston will get in first, right? And then Molson Coors will follow. And then eventually maybe AB does. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I mean, we've had
That's
these
where it gets
discussions.
interesting, right? Because I think if you had an AB or a Molson Coors that would stand up and say, if this was federally legal, we would support this framework. Right. I think Molson Coors' new CEO came out in one of your articles and said, we're focused on beer. We're not going to be distracted by this. It's illegal. We support the MBWA and Beer Institute's decision. So there's a lot of these big breweries, but we all know in this group, the day it's legal, they're not going to try, like when AB couldn't beat Blue Moon, they launched Shock Top, right? And Shock Top's now owned by Tilray. It's been passed around a few times. I think those days, I think it's a lot easier. There's a rumor they're going to buy Beatbox, right? They could create a Tetra Pak and launch it and force distribution, but it's not the same. And I think if they buy Beatbox for $700 million, they would spend $300 to $400 million trying to build their own. So I think what's going to happen is you absolutely see Molson and Constellation and AB and everyone go scoop up or take a majority, partnership with half of the top 10 brands that are out there. And I think that's what the smart players are doing is they're not selling their souls in their cap table right now to have room for the big brewers to come on. Because you can stay right now and say you're against it, but as soon as it's fairly legal, it's too much money to stay away from.
I'll make a prediction. I think Molson Coors would be the first to fall. That when I say fall, I mean get behind it. They need the volume desperately, and he's made it very clear that their balance sheet is ready to make acquisitions. It's clearly, RTD is where he's looking at. But if this is legal, they would get into it. Less so AB because Brendan's ex-military, ex-CIA, I think from my conversations with him, he seems very against it philosophically, if you want to call it that. But Constellation and Molson Coors, and like you said, Jen, Boston Beer, even Heineken, I think they all need it. They all need something.
When that's how the wine and spirit suppliers are looking at it too, Harry. Again, they've got liquid to burn. So if you can go in, and again, no one's getting bought right now. Like, I don't know what the highest exit would be if it was legal tomorrow. I know about what revenues these companies do and about what their, EBITDAs are. Like, I don't know what the number would be. There's no Beatbox size deals getting done tomorrow. There's no, billion-dollar Ballast Point deals in hemp being done tomorrow, right? But I think everyone knows that this thing's federally legal. Like anybody that did invest early, it's the penny stock of all, like whatever the Bitcoin or the AMC. Or how do you make a lot of money on those trading
Dogecoin?
Dogecoin. Yeah, this is the Dogecoin with no ceiling at some point, I think, for the people that got in early. And I think the positions to Harry's point, like Miller Coors can come in, put that through a wholesaler network, have their sales team, whatever happens to their beer trends happens. And this now, they use their chain footprint and power to put these things everywhere.
Yeah, just one more follow up on this, and talking to BevAlc opposition, it seems like one of the main arguments is we just want a level playing field. They're getting to do things that we don't get to do. But if there is regulation and clarity put in place, do you feel like the playing field could be tilted the other way, where there is this super high barrier to entry, and the labeling and the regulation and all the requirements might put out a lot of the people that were first in it?
It has to be. You can't have your cake and eat it too in this situation. You can't be something that is weed-like, weed effect-like, make a bunch of money on your profitability. You're not going to have e-commerce. You're going to have very strict. I mean, I saw something that if you took 100 random cans of THC beverage, at best 60% are going to pass. But I can almost promise you, any of us could walk up and down the aisle and guess which 40% aren't going to pass.
You're right. Yeah, when I'm at Total Wine, I could totally see the ones that are janky, paying slotting fees, and that's getting the same type of regulation where it's just like alcohol, so that it's regulated by the same agencies at the state level that's already there, right? And getting rid of this kind of paying accounts and under the table stuff that we fully expect from wine and spirits. But
well, that's also why, like, this industry, that's the first one I've seen in a long time that wholesalers, suppliers, and retailers can make good money. Then you tack on slotting fees, free fills, BOGOs, 50 case family distributor family mix and match. Depending on which market we land in that day, and talking to people, it's the Wild West out there. And the crazy part is, won't shock anybody, none of those savings are like your $17.99 4-pack is now not a $12.99 4-pack. Everyone's just making more money. So if you do it to drive trial, you might as well pay sampling folks to stay in the store on Friday and Saturday night and drive trial and build brands how they were and have been. But yeah, to your point, Jordan, like, it's got to be, because I think if it goes federally legal, there's not coming out there that can sustain the C-store slotting fees. And because it's treated like non-alc, but regulated, once we regulate it like alcohol, it has to truly feel like alcohol, where there's not free goods. You can do QDs in certain states where, again, certain states you can do QDs. Tennessee, where we're at, you can't on beer, but many states you can. And it's got to follow whatever the beer laws are.
And these guys, they need to realize that everybody makes more money with more regulation. I think Jim Cook famously said that, the reason our margins are so high is because it's so highly regulated. We can't do slotting fees. And, a lot of people complain when distributors, when they have a new energy drink, they're like, we're not making a lot of money on them initially because we have to pay the retailer so much to get it in and buy coolers and all this business. But regulation gives margin to everybody.
Yeah.
No QDs, bring it.
A lot of retailers are moving that way already. They're self-regulating in the sense that they're not doing the free goods and the coolers, and they're saying we want to prepare for where we think this is going. And then, Jordan, what your point about unfair, it was surprising to me, and maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention to how opposed the alcohol industry was due to the 21 and up, because all the retailers that we're engaging with, independents and chains, wholesalers, all the websites, it really has been consistent, especially with the partners we work with. I don't see any targeting of that 18 to 21-year-old. It's 21 and up is where we want it, and it seems to be that's what the retailers want, wholesalers want. So it was very vocal in a lot of the Q&A and some of those seminars that it's just how do you compete when they can go after that consumer? And I hadn't been aware that was as big of an issue as they thought it was.
Yeah. I just ask all that because it seems like, I think the narrative has been big. Alcohol is trying to, shut all this down in 1 year, but it seems like it's also an opportunity for them to look at it for a year and say, okay, we have an entry here, and we can come in, know what we're going to do, and we can play and feel comfortable about it at the same time. So
I think it's an easy scapegoat to say, if this stuff, which right now it's the black sheep, if you will, and they're trying to figure out where it lives. I think it's easy for big breweries right now to say, this is a large reason why our share's down, our volume's down. It's not like you're still trying to connect consumers like it was 15 years ago, and it's not the same environment. Those people haven't right-sized their way of thinking. I think hemp beverages are equally taking out of wine drinkers, spirit drinkers, beer, but they're also picking up the people that just don't want alcohol and don't like beer. So I think it's adding new consumers into the occasion, but I think it's an easy one to label and say, if this goes away, beer volumes go back up. If beer volumes go back up from where they're at, it's because they have figured out the right way to connect on social opportunities. And that's it. I don't think it has anything to do with him.
I agree. I mean, we sell more cider in this country than we do hemp beverages. So it's not like it's huge.
It's a microcosm right now. I mean, it's nothing. Like the volume's not there to say it's eating in anything. And that's just kind of a silly way to put a label on it right now.
But Austin, you just said you were 50% less beer drinking and you're drinking the hemp beverages, right? So it
if
kind of
everyone
sounds...
in America drink as much as I do, total beer and total hemp, the volume would be great.
Yeah. I think Austin's a special, I think you and I both, Austin, are that way.
Outliers.
Yeah, we're definitely outliers. But I really enjoy it, and I don't drink it to get high necessarily. It's more like in the evening. I just want to wind down and be able to get in bed and go to sleep and chill. It's not like people are drinking it and then going out and like vandalizing things, and it's not
because that's the beverage alcohol occasion, Harry.
I mean, yeah. I mean, sometimes.
I know every time I drink, I go out and vandalize shit. No, I'm kidding. Just yesterday, that's all. No, I'm curious. So I kind of want to, I mean, we could talk about this literally for days, but I want to go a little bit more general. What else are you guys hearing from wholesalers in general? And how confident are you in their ability to be healthy as total beverage distributors as BevAlc becomes less and less share of their overall portfolio? So just branching out a little bit, not too much.
Yeah, it's hard, right? I think when you look at the people, look, you can have the smartest VP of sales and sales director and GM and ownership that's sharp, innovative. At the end of the day, the folks that are responsible for how brands are portrayed and executed at retail are the people with the iPads in their hand. How it's merchandised at retail. A lot of those folks have been doing this and been in those routes for a very long time. I can tell you, over the last 2 years, I went to quite a few sales meetings where they launched hemp beverages, and there's a lot of sales force. The younger folks are like, "This is awesome! Not alcohol, this or that," and they're excited about it. The hands up are like, "So I'm going to fail my drug test for this," and it's like the questions, like they don't know where to put it, where you do it. So like, there's so much education that's still being done today, but I think wholesalers realize that it's adapt or die, right? Mm-hmm. I think there are going to be some jobs lost if beer doesn't bounce the right way. We've talked about that earlier. There will also be some wholesaler issues as total companies if they don't adapt to the way the future does. And I think when you look at, and there's companies out there that make it easier, right? Like Pro-V is a partner of ours. They're a digital marketplace solution where you can put your whole catalog on there. And most retailers, by the way, I don't think want to see someone every single day. We play the role of a supplier rep, and we figure out like, hey, what's not your order day? When can we come by and just talk about what's going on in the store or what's going on in the bar? And we figure out the ways, and we track in our notes and know when to attack it. Wholesalers are routing those people that are in. If you're in a Kroger on Monday, it's because your truck is in that area on Tuesday. It's been that way for a billion years, and that may never change. I think the trucks will stop going on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Friday at some point in the very near future, and they'll consolidate those things. But I think they've got to change the way of thinking. They've got to look at technology. MBWA this year, it's interesting. There's not more tech solution companies that are like in distributor spaces saying, we can simplify this for you. And maybe there's a lot that seem like gnats, and they're trying to swat away the bad ones and figure out what the good ones are. And there's a lot of noise in that space. And I know several have tried to do it. We work with Tom and Sean Fox on training modules, and we're working on next year adaptive, innovative selling strategies and critical thinking, right? Like, how do you think like tomorrow? How do you approach tomorrow's buyer? How do you talk to and connect with tomorrow's consumer? It's not the old adage that you just need a 5-case display stack with a text to win code on everything or a MIR. You've got to connect with them in different ways. You've got to put them on consumer scavenger hunt. You got to find them on Instagram like they did Harry. You got to drive them to retail if e-commerce is gone. You've got to connect in new strategy ways. And there's a lot of wholesalers that are doing this. I think wholesalers are now, we're seeing a lot of like training and education positions put back at the wholesaler level. And a lot of these folks are the younger, hipper, know what's going on beverage folks that can talk about trends and why these things matter. Now it's a conscious effort on the sales professional at the wholesaler level. If they say, I need to learn this or I'm going to be left behind, that's a decision every human has to make, right? And then there's the world 10 years from now of what's AI and tech do for replacement of these folks, because Sean Mossman, a friend of ours in the industry, has a Bev AI technology that can basically look at your inventory, data supply, link with your VIP sales, and have a suggested order that's more accurate than any salesperson can do. Good salespeople will beat that AI number and be bigger than that number on build weeks. But there's so much predictive technology out there that I think at some point the sales reps almost become in-store merchandisers and fillers and relationship managers. Then they are counting how many cases are back there. You need 6 cases of this, 3 cases of this. And I think that's where the tech swing's happening, and you have to adapt there. But the relationship managers, I will always believe in the human interaction. I think it's why our business is built on the foundation it is, and there's so many other ones out there. AB, making friends is our business, has been for 100 plus years. We believe in that wholeheartedly. And I think that element has to stay there, and you've got to continue to develop relationships. That's who's going to get the jump ball and who's going to grow and get new products in. But the other side, that's the inventory, counting, filling shelves. I don't think your average salesperson is doing that in 10 years. And I think there has to be an immediate path on what the wholesalers are doing. And you talk to Reyes, you talk to JR and Kemp, you talk to Southern Glaziers, like they are all looking at these kind of things, right? I don't know if every wholesaler has I know they don't have the scale to look and trial these things out of different operations, but from warehouse to trucking to sales, I think all that has to evolve. And I think the wholesalers that don't evolve are probably going to be part of an acquisition model at some point in the very near future. I do think part of the 2026 predictions is I think wholesaler M&A goes up a lot next year. I think we're going to see the Wild West on deal side next year. Just because I think there's some people that said, screw it. I built a $2 million business in hemp. Now it's going away. I built this energy drink, it's going away. I've done this 3 generations. I'm tired of it. Yeah. I'm going to cash out and go to the wayside, right? But the others are going to say, I'm going to weather the storm. I'm going to capitalize on all this. I'm going to future-proof our industry to the best of our abilities, and they're going to stay in it.
Yeah, because if you can consolidate to just delivery alone by 20%, say, in a week, it's not a 20% increase in EBITDA. It's like a 40% increase. I mean, in other words, it's levered down, it's a logarithmic function, and delivery is by far the biggest expense in most of these distributorships, delivery and merchandising, and but that's just how.
If you don't come from our industry and you drive by a 7-Eleven and you see a Miller truck, a Bud truck, different vans, you probably think this industry is comical, and it probably is, right? Yeah. So the inefficiencies in this industry are the worst there ever are. But if you think about who can make more money, yeah, there's the share of mind, the fighting for growth. Put that back into marketing, connect with consumers, consolidate the AB and Miller Coors houses. You've got one stop, your efficiencies goes up through the roof. And I think there's a world where that, and there's some place in the country where there are AB and Miller Coors in the same trucks. I think they've been that way for a while, but I think that's the most logical solution. If all these mass brands are being delivered by one, or I think maybe we do this one day, but like someone to outsource the delivery where you take it all off the trucks and you're going to go in there and say, we're going to deliver all of your fleet. We're going to merchandise it all. We're going to touch it all. I don't think there's a city with wholesalers in it in the country that wouldn't sign up for that.
And, that was experimented with in the early 2000s. Joe Thompson actually had a company that is called Shared Services, but he did it more like shared warehousing, but also, and sometimes delivery as well. But I agree with you. It makes total sense. The brewers right now aren't there. They don't like it. But I think the reality of the economics is going to force function that the stuff that doesn't matter, the warehousing and the delivery, like you said, I mean, I was at Walgreens getting my drugs the other day, and there was an RNDC truck, an AB truck, and a Glazer's truck. All, I mean, you couldn't park in the parking lot. It was so ridiculous. And this is Walgreens; they don't sell anything. You know. Anyway, I'm off my high horse.
They sell gift cards.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're running up on an hour. So, Jen, I know you got anything else for these gentlemen?
Well, just a real small question, if that's cool. I really wanted to ask this one because you guys have so many different clients, and some of them work with really large companies. Like you guys work with Poppy, and they were just bought by PepsiCo, right? And Montucky, and they work with Gallo. What does that look like for you guys? Are you increasingly working with multinationals, or is that sort of a holdover from when you did work with these smaller companies? Or if you could explain that.
You know, if we were smarter operators, we would just start taking stakes in these businesses. But you know, I took a stand early on that we just don't operate that way with equity positions or any of those things, because I don't ever want someone come and say like, "Will you push this brand harder because CMC has a stake in it," or whatever. And I think ethically it's the right move. Would I love to have a piece of the $2 billion pellet sale to Poppy and some of these other ones? Absolutely. I wouldn't be as concerned about a potential hemp ban at the time. But it's good, you know, look, most of these, Jen, come back, right? Or if they don't come back, you know, the head of Poppy, Jeff Rubenstein, is now doing cloud popcorn. He's a board member of several other companies that we work with. Chris Hall has integrated over to Pepsi. He's a good friend of mine, you know, was the CEO of Poppy. The thing about beverage folks is they always repopulate somewhere else, right? So even if we never do another dime of business with Poppy, which in that example, 99% sure we won't, right? Pepsi has a pretty large force.
Right.
They do it. But I mean, Ritual is an example. We carried that over, and Diageo is a partner of ours. So when Ritual was bought by Diageo, they looked and said, your line items, here's your marketing, here's your sales, who's this other CMC? Well, they've been a partner with us. We've got reps all over the country. We do this and that with them. Like, all right, that seems to be working. We'll carry that over. You know, there's good and bad when it goes to these suppliers. Some of these big suppliers are take it or leave it, and they have tougher agreements, and you know, you get paid a little later on your payment terms and stuff like this. But they're awesome partners, right? And the ability now, when you're in a Diageo system, is to go in there and, you know, they're not done. They've got a large spirits portfolio, which is a big focus for us moving into 2026. Their non-out division, they now have Seedlip and Ritual. So there's opportunities we're talking about for next year. You know, Montucky goes to Gallo and then talks with them. You know, so all these brands have a way, because they keep a lot of leadership intact, and they say, listen, do whatever you want to for integrating this or that. But like, these folks at Countermeasures are a key part of what built us here. And then if it doesn't work out in the Poppy example, we've got 15 folks that are very loyal to us, very good to us, that know our quality of work, that are going to go somewhere else. And all these people have friends in the industry as they go to brands. That's what we get thrown a lot. We talk all the time, we're the best $0 marketing firm you'll ever meet. Our money is spent at bar tabs late night and word of mouth. You know, and we try to be a relationship first company and do good work for folks. So I mean, we wish them well. We had this much to do with Poppy getting sold, but we built their entire distribution network from KUNFI to direct, and it went from 15 wholesalers to 180 in the snap. You know, so we're proud of the work we did. So we say we played a part, and we saw what their end revenue was and what they were when they started with us. So we're proud of that. It's a good testimony. You know, you go on our website, go on our deck, you can see some of these people that left us nice testimonials, and it's a good badge of honor for us. But you know, I'd say about 80% we retain into the new parent co, and then there's a whole wild world of like, hey, let's talk about all of our brands that we do. It's good.
You're so right. I mean, I've always said this, that nobody leaves the beverage industry, you know, unless you die. It's like the mafia. Once you get in it, you're in it for life, and there's no getting out because it's a great industry, and it's high margin, and it's good people. I love it. That's why. I mean, I should have retired a long time ago, but I still love, you know, showing up places and seeing everybody. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for spending time with us. Austin and Alden, it's Countermeasures Corp. Go check them out. And folks, don't forget that tickets are on sale for the summit in January at Hotel Del Coronado in San Diego. Go to beernet.com to check that out. We have our speakers are announced. And so just be sure and get that done. Just get it done before the holidays so you don't have to worry about it. All right. All right, guys. Take
Thanks
care.
so much.
And you guys have a good week.
We'll see you all in January.
Right.
Awesome.
All right, thanks everybody.